Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Since opening our doors in 1904, Builtwell Bank has existed to be the local economic engine for the communities we serve. No matter if you're buying a car, saving for retirement, or finally buying that forever home, Builtwell Bank is here to help. From personal checking and savings accounts to a full suite of business and commercial banking with treasury management services, we'll make sure you'll have a dedicated Builtwell banker that understands your unique needs and stands by you every step of the way. No matter where you are in Tennessee or Northwest Georgia, there's likely a Builtwell Bank location nearby. Come see us and let our dedicated financial team help you with all of your banking needs. Member FDIC.
C&B Linen, fast, friendly, and reliable service is our promise to you. Because you're not just a customer, you're family. From multi-use linen to branded floor coverings and a complete range of cleaning supplies, C&B Linen is here to make sure you have everything you need. From our high-quality products to our fast, friendly, and reliable service, you'll experience the difference with C&B Linen. Because you're not just a client, you're part of our family. You'll be winning with C&B Linen.
Got a dent, a ding, a scratch, or a bent fender? Major or minor, Car Country Collision Center in Leoma can fix you up. Car Country works with all insurance carriers, gives free estimates, can work on foreign and domestic vehicles, and has experience you can trust. They've been in business since 1990. Unfortunately, accidents happen, but you can get your car back on the road with as little hassle as possible with the help of Car Country. Call 931-852-4708 or stop by at 2567 Highway 43 South in Leoma.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody into the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and I promised that the Wednesday edition was going to be mostly basketball, but we have a ton to talk about, and we don't have X Sports today, so I'm just going to sit here and ramble because we got a lot to get into. And we'll start right with some stuff that happened last night, the college football playoff. It's Tuesday, so we got the playoff rankings. And early in the season, I was really critical of the AP poll because it was bad. I mean, there were moments where I believe somebody the week after South Florida had gone in the swamp and upset Florida had Florida still ranked higher. Little things like that. But, man, the rankings last night were something. So we'll jump right into it. Not much of a change at the top. Top two still the same, Ohio State and Indiana. And they will be there until this weekend when they have to play. And unfortunately, one of them will have to lose. Number 3, Georgia moves up. After the A&M loss to Texas. Texas Tech takes a step up as well, as does Oregon and Ole Miss. So 3 through 6 is Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, and Ole Miss in that order. A&M fell all the way from 3 to 7. A little bit of a strict punishment for that kind of loss, but given they have the most recent loss, and so they're the second lowest ranked one-loss team behind just ahead of BYU. Oklahoma at 8. Alabama jumps Notre Dame up to 9, and then Notre Dame falls one spot to 10. We talked about it yesterday on Exports Today. We think that the reason that this happened, because we talked about the possibility of it, because look, you moved Alabama up one spot for a home win against the unranked team that's not going to a bowl game by 7 points. I just felt like it was a spot they moved them up because they were in the SEC championship game, and they don't want to set a precedent where I don't think Greg Sankey would let them set a precedent where the SEC doesn't get a team that was in their conference championship game into the playoff. Now, if Alabama does lose to Georgia this Saturday, and we'll talk about that more on Friday, are they going to be the first 3-loss team to make the playoff? From here, it sure seems that way. But you never know. But that's not where my biggest problem is. It's at number 14, and it's the problem that Vanderbilt is still at number 14. They bumped Texas up to 13 after that win at Texas A&M. It was at home against Texas A&M, great win. But now you have a 3-loss SEC team ranked over a 2-loss SEC team. Now I get Texas played Vanderbilt and beat them. You can use head-to-head if teams have the same rankings, because that Texas Vanderbilt game happened a couple months ago, or a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't that long ago. It's still very valid. It was not a good game for Vanderbilt. They came back in the end and tried to make it a game, weren't able to. But and you look at Vanderbilt's 2 losses. They're both on the road, and it's the number 9 and number 13. And we have a 2-loss SEC team sitting out of the playoff right now, and I don't know who I would bump for them, because you could say that maybe they're better than Oklahoma, but they don't have a head-to-head, and they lost to Texas. Texas beat Oklahoma. I mean, they do have a common loss, and Oklahoma's was by more, but Oklahoma has a win at Alabama. Vandy lost that game, and you can't rank Vandy above Oklahoma and have Vanderbilt above Alabama, because Alabama dominated Vanderbilt. So the real problem is the group of 5. And obviously we know that the 12-team playoff would probably not be a thing unless that there was some sort of agreement to where they would have a chance to get a team in every year. And we have 3 of them ranked now. We have Tulane at 20, North Texas at 24, and JMU at 25. So you have 3 of them ranked. It's the first time there's been more than one this season, at least in the playoff rankings. There's been 4 or 5, probably more than 5 or 6 teams outside of the playoff rankings in the AP and the coaches poll. I mean, for the most part, I think the rankings are actually... I just have a problem with Texas being over Vanderbilt. And, because Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas athletic director and the new college football playoff committee chairman, said that Vanderbilt beat Tennessee by so much that it dropped Tennessee out of the polls, making that a not good victory. I mean, what kind of narrative is that setting? Because I know they're still holding that Texas loss at Ohio State, and maybe that Ohio State is using that win over number 1 Texas as a way to hold themselves up. There's too many narratives driven in this that you can use a little tidbit about. Because right now, how do you have Alabama ranked above Notre Dame? Notre Dame's won 10 straight games. Their losses are to number 7 and number 12. By a combined 4 points, the game against number 12 being on the road. And Alabama has a road loss to Florida State, who won 5 games this year. But, I mean, realistically, Alabama, I think, is a better team than Notre Dame this year. I think maybe Oklahoma, they've just really benefited from having a tough schedule and playing well in it. So we'll look at what the new bracket would look like, because this is where we have the most changes. So obviously, with what shaped out in the ACC last weekend, Duke's in the championship game against Virginia. You have number 17 playing an unranked team. So we'll just look at what the bracket looks like. Obviously, 1 through 10 is the exact same as the top 10 in the rankings. The last 2, though, it had been Miami, who was the highest ranked ACC team, but obviously it's conference champions, and Miami now can't be in there as an at-large or as a conference champion because they didn't make the ACC title game, which is a problem. I don't know what way you go about it, but there's no way that Duke should be in that championship game over Miami. Now, so what does that mean? Well, there are 5 automatic qualifiers in the playoff, and it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So it could be, I was talking about it last night. If somehow, and I know this will never happen, if the 5 highest ranked conference champions are from the Conference USA, from the Sun Belt, the MAC, Mountain West, and the American, then those are your 5 highest ranked conference champions. Then they all make the playoff. Now, do I think that'll ever happen? No. So what does that mean? Well, 11 and 12 are the 4th highest ranked group of 5 champ, and the number 12 is the 5th highest ranked conference champ. So there's about, I'd say, 6 teams that are fighting for those 2 spots, all of them in championship games this weekend. First up, Virginia. They're the highest ranked of the teams left in here, and they have a game against the 7-5 team to make the playoff. I think that there's a good chance they do, but if they don't, that's where it gets interesting. Tulane. They're number 20 Tulane, number 24 North Texas. That's a ranked matchup for the American Conference champion. Now, neither one of these teams have a head coach, so to speak. We'll get to that in a minute. Tulane is going to allow John Summerall to coach them in the playoffs and their conference championship game. North Texas, I don't believe Eric Morris is going to stick around. He might, but North Texas also did hire Neil Brown today, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then James Madison, who coach also left, that we'll also talk about in a little bit. Not sure if he's staying to coach the playoffs or not. And very, very slim chances for Duke and UNLV. They're both still alive, very much. They're in conference championship games. If Duke beats Virginia, if Tulane beats North Texas, and if Troy beats James Madison and Boise beats UNLV, then Duke's in the playoff. Now, there'll be that number 12. There'll be a 7-5 team in the playoff with just, some very questionable losses on the season. And then also a pretty slim chance UNLV. Pretty much the same thing. I think that if Duke beats Virginia, Tulane beats North Texas, and James Madison loses to Troy, then a UNLV win over Boise would probably put them in. I think it'd be interesting to see that team in the playoff, because obviously they were one of the hotter teams early in the season, have kind of lingered as of late, but still a 10-win regular season and a conference championship game coming up on, I believe that one's on Friday, the Mountain West. But listen, the Running Rebels, man, they're having a great season and a real resurgence of this program. And actually, I would say their best games have been of late. A 38-10 win over Miami or Hawaii, and a 42-17 win over Nevada. I mean, there was a lot of 6-2 teams in the Mountain West with Boise, New Mexico, San Diego State, and UNLV. UNLV got the benefit of the doubt there. Now, looking at this UNLV team, I'm really not sure. Anthony Calandria has had an awesome season. The Virginia transfer, slightly over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 picks. Is also a pretty big running threat. So 30 touchdowns, 35, almost 3,600 total yards. Jaden Thomas is going to get to 1,000 yards most likely in this championship game. He's got 12 rushing touchdowns. Kevon Lee, he's the guy that's third in touches. He's got 6 touchdowns on the year. So this team is really varies how they like to score, but they score a lot. Problem is their defense also gives up a lot, which is a cause for concern. Looking at their season overall, they scored 466 points, which was 76 more than the next team, which was Boise. But the problem is they gave up 337 points, which was second most in the conference, only behind Air Force and San Jose State. Well, those teams have 7 combined wins, so that tells you how rough the defense has been. It's gotten better in conference play, but definitely leaves a lot to be desired. So that's how the playoff is shaping up to be right now. I think those 10 are probably safe, barring a BYU beating Texas Tech. I think that they would probably jump. They might jump all the way up to 8 and bump Oklahoma back to 9 and Alabama back to 10 following a SEC. Well, that's another thing that could be interesting. You moved Alabama up to 9. What if they still lose the SEC championship game and you have BYU beat Texas Tech? because you still have to. You would still think you would drop Alabama losing that conference championship game, but you just moved them up to set a precedent that they're making it. So, I mean, I'm a as a personally, I'm a Tennessee fan. I'm not trying to hate on Alabama or Georgia or anybody in particular. But boy, I'd love to see some chaos unfold on this weekend with some games. I mean, maybe a BYU win, maybe an Alabama loss. See what would come of that. Maybe I feel pretty confidently now with Vanderbilt not making the playoff that the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be which of the two quarterbacks play better in the Big Ten championship game. But let's talk about what some of these matchups would be. So number 12 would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion, and they play at Oregon. I mean, it's probably a bloodbath. Doesn't matter which of those teams it is. It could be Duke. It could be North Texas. Doesn't matter. Same thing with number 11, barring it being Virginia. I think Virginia could probably give Ole Miss a pretty good game. They're in that 11-6 game. But realistically, Ole Miss and Oregon are getting free passes to the second round. If it was just the 12 best teams in the country, I think the playoff would be in a much better situation because BYU demolishes probably every single one of those teams that I mentioned that are fighting for a playoff spot. And Miami, maybe. Some of those teams are in the ACC, and Miami has kind of struggled with some of those middle-of-the-road ACC teams. So that can't be spoken on with too much certainty. But I think the other two matchups are awesome because they're both regular season rematches from this season, but flipped environments. You have Notre Dame going to Texas A&M, a rematch of a Week 2 game where Texas A&M could make an extra point and Notre Dame couldn't hold on to one. And then you have Alabama at Oklahoma. That was a drumming last year, but if Alabama wins and they're in and that's a matchup, I love it. I mean, it's going to be a great environment in Norman. I mean, that crowd is loud. And Oklahoma's formidable this year. And they got, I would almost argue that their defense is close to the level of Ohio State's. The only reason I can't is because Ohio State's given up like 7 points a game. And the only reason that is because they're playing offenses outside the top 50. And, Oklahoma's stuck playing Ole Miss and Alabama and Tennessee and, trying to stop that. So those second round matchups, what they would be, well, the winner of Bama OU would get Ohio State. Now, these aren't at a certain campus. These are going to be actual bowl games the second round. So it would be Bama and Ohio State in the Orange Bowl or something. Notre Dame A&M winner would get Indiana. And boy, a Notre Dame-Indiana rematch in the playoffs would be great. I mean, it was a great game last year, and Indiana is so much better this year. And I think Notre Dame might be a sliver better than they were last year. But again, with Jeremiah Love's injury condition, we don't know if what exactly he would be at. But I think A&M and Indiana would be a great game because despite them falling to 7, I still think A&M is one of the 5 or 6 best teams in this country. I think they dropped them a little much, but obviously recency bias. You got to drop the team that lost more recently. It'd be the 4th highest conference champion or Ole Miss taking on Georgia. I'd love an Ole Miss-Georgia rematch, but I think Georgia's going to get a cakewalk to the semifinals. You got an Ole Miss team without a head coach. Now, obviously, they retained Charlie Weiss Jr. They retained Pete Golding. Pete Golding is I guess he's the acting head coach now. I haven't heard if it was interim or full-time, but I haven't really heard interim at all, so I would guess he's the full-time head coach now. But, what does that mean for Ole Miss? They lost that game earlier in the season, a game at Georgia, where they had a fourth-quarter lead and relinquished it. Pretty much everyone Georgia's played can say that. They had a fourth-quarter lead and lost it there at the end. And then it'd be the 5th highest-ranked conference champion, or Oregon versus Texas Tech. I think Oregon versus Texas Tech would be an awesome matchup. But, again, Oregon kind of a bit opposite of Ole Miss. Now, I assume that they will stay through the playoffs, but Oregon's offensive coordinator is a head coach somewhere else now. Oregon's defensive coordinator is a head coach somewhere else now. So they don't have coordinators. Now, Texas Tech did re-sign head coach Joey McGuire to an extension, which is well-deserved. He's done an amazing job in Texas Tech, and it's amazing what you can do with a decent coach and a whole lot of money. All right, so we'll jump into some other headlines going on around college football. First up, the one that happened most recently to now, USF has hired Ohio State offensive coordinator Brian Hartline to be their next head coach. I think I said on Monday, I think it was announced by then that I thought, or maybe I said it on Exports Today yesterday, but I thought Will Stein was the offense coordinator from Oregon going to Kentucky. I thought that was a home run hire, probably maybe one of the best of the offseason. This one takes the cake for now. I mean, USF went from Alex Golish, who, don't get me wrong, wasn't a bad head coach, but Tennessee had that really good year in 2022, and he's the head coach at USF in 2023. But I don't think in 2022 anybody looked at Alex Golish as better than Brian Hartline, and now Golish has left and taken an SEC job, and Hartline's now down in the American. But listen, that's a great hire for them, because you realize Brian Hartline, that is the guy that brought in Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, all those awesome receivers that Ohio State's had over the past couple of years. He's the reason they have them. If he could bring anybody of that caliber to USF, maybe bring a quarterback with him, watch out, because the Bulls could be that favorite for the playoffs, for that Group of 5 playoff spot next year if it's still a thing. I think if we have chaos Saturday, that the playoff is going to change for the 4th year in a row. Cal has hired Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoy to be their next head coach. And like I mentioned earlier, the Ducks are going to have to replace both OC and their DC for next season. That was a awesome hire for Cal. Obviously, Oregon, one of the tougher defenses in the country, one of the better ones in the Big Ten. Let's pull up some numbers real quick on Oregon. So in their 9 conference game this year, Oregon, they went 8-1 and gave up 155 points. That is, what, 3rd? 4th behind Ohio State, who has the best defense in the country, Indiana, who's top 5 as well, and Iowa, who plays the slowest brand of football in the country. So you're looking at Oregon, who has one of the best defenses in the country, and now a 44-year-old guy going to Cal. And listen, that's a great hire for Cal, because I thought firing Justin Wilcox was dumb. You went 7-5, and Clemson went 7-5. They didn't fire Dabo, which I think would have been really dumb. But Duke went 7-5, and they're in the conference championship game. And here's Cal, who probably had the lowest expectations of those 3, who went 7-5, who definitely had the lowest expectation of those 3, who went 7-5 with a freshman quarterback, and they fired their coach because they knew they could get somebody, and they got Lupoy, who played for 5 years at Cal as a defensive lineman. His senior year was a All Pac-10 academic honorable mention. So he's got Cal blood in him, but he's been the defensive coordinator at Alabama. He's been the defensive coordinator at Oregon, some of the best defenses in the country. So that's a great hire for Cal, and maybe looking up for the Bears. I mean, they got Ron Rivera as a general manager, so you have a former NFL guy kind of running the operations type of stuff going around there. Maybe Cal could be a contender in the ACC next year. I mean, if they can retain their freshman quarterback, Sago Politelli, they're going to be awesome, because that kid is really good. Get him some talent around him, put a good defense behind him, because that was another thing that hurt Cal this year was poor defensive play. They're going to be right there. Kansas State head coach Chris Kleiman has announced that he will retire this week. Kleiman led the Wildcats, had been the head coach of Kansas State since 2019. That was following a stint at North Dakota State, where he won 4 FCS national championships in a 5-year span. He compiled a 54-34 record while coaching Kansas State, including a 10-win season in 2022, where he played for the Big 12 Conference Championship game and the Sugar Bowl. Unfortunately, lost both. And then 2 9-win seasons to follow. Kleiman, just 58 years old. I'm really curious to see what he does, because we've seen coaches retire and then come out of retirement. The one at the top of my mind right now, Urban Meyer. He retired, or I get resigned, retired, whatever the case was with Florida. Well, that was 15 years ago. He was, 46, 47 years old? So, it didn't look like this was a health concern or anything. I believe he just maybe is looking elsewhere. He's had a long coaching career, but little confused at the decision. Obviously, Kansas State went 6-6 this year. It was not great. Maybe Kleiman just feels that he can't compete anymore in the NIL era and just wants to step aside. A Kansas newspaper out of Manhattan has reported that former Kansas State quarterback and current Texas A&M offensive coordinator and quarterback coach Colin Klein is lined up to take over for Kleiman. In his last 2 seasons playing, for the Wildcats. Klein compiled over 6,600 total yards, 4,600 passing, over 2,000 rushing, and 79 touchdowns, 29 of which were passing and 50 of which were on the ground, and finished third place in the Heisman in 2012 behind Johnny Manziel and Manti Te'o. I mean, look at how good Texas A&M has been this year. I think it's more their defense than anything, because obviously they were not happy with Colin Klein after last year. Now, was that more because he was trying to make a more mobile quarterback system out of Connor Wigman instead of Marcel Reed? Maybe, and that's maybe why they're so good this year, because that's a system built for Marcel Reed, and he's excelling in it. But look at what Kansas State, if they can get Avery Johnson back, and Klein can get that system up and running quick, Kansas State could be competing for the Big 12 next year. Now they lose a lot this year, and there's been a lot of turmoil, obviously, with losing your running back at the beginning of the year, and he never really made it back, and then transferred. You were hoping to be a Big 12 contender early in the season, and it just didn't work out that way. But maybe a young guy like Klein could be the guy to turn things around. As I mentioned earlier, North Texas has hired former West Virginia and Troy head coach Neil Brown to replace Eric Morris. Brown had a really great career at Troy. Didn't excel very much at WVU. They had some good moments, had some big opportunities, but just weren't able to take that next step. But I think it's a great hire for North Texas, because losing a guy like Eric Morris, I mean, that's a big loss. Now you got a guy that's had Power 5 experience coming back to coach your team. So I think it was a great hire. One that really came out of nowhere, Monday afternoon after we recorded this, UCLA hires James Madison head coach Bob Chesney. I mean, listen, everywhere Chesney has gone, he has won. I mean, just look at where he's been. Now, I get he's followed some really good head coaches to some really good programs. But let me pull up some of his previous stops. Obviously, he's been with JMU since 2024. Has had a 20-5 record. They went 11-1 right now. Are in the Sun Belt championship game. Last year went 9-4. And then spent some time at Holy Cross, where he went 44-21, 28-4 in conference play. At Assumption College, went 44-16. Had some runs in the playoffs. But he's a young guy. He's 48 years old. Has not been a head coach at a big school yet, and now has an opportunity to change the way things are going at UCLA. They had a terrible start to the year. Deshaun Foster out. And then, Rich Neuheisel's son became the biggest Cinderella story, I guess we could say, in college football. Jerry Neuheisel, I didn't mean to, discredit you like that, but came in as the interim offensive coordinator after Sinceri decided he was stepping out too. There's some momentum going on at UCLA. Maybe Chesney can pick up on that and maybe bring them back. I mean, I would assume that they're probably going to bring most of the players back from this year, or maybe they want to get rid of a bunch of them and start clean. I mean, I assume Chesney will bring some JMU guys with them. Maybe as quarterback, maybe not. It depends on maybe how how that relationship between Chesney and Iamaleava looks. But transfer portal will open up around New Year, so they'll have about a month to figure that out. Kentucky hires Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein. Again, a young guy, a former Louisville quarterback, but has ties to Kentucky. Is taking over the Wildcats. And listen, it's a young head coach, and it's different. Kentucky has been a defensive team under Mark Stoops really the entire time he was there. And now they're kind of flipping. Their defense wasn't as good anymore, and that's nothing against Brad White, who I think is a great defensive coordinator. It'd be cool to see if Kentucky could retain him. But you get an offensive guy like Stein that's been at Oregon. He's coached Heisman finalists. Dante Moore, I don't know if Dante Moore won't be a finalist this year, but he's going to be in the top 10. You had Dylan Gabriel last year. Year before that, you had Bo Nix, who I believe was a Heisman. I think he was a finalist his last year. I'll look that up right now. He was just outside. Or no, does that say he was third? Yes, he was. So He's coached 2 Heisman finalists in 3 years, and he's going to have a guy just outside the finalists this year, so 3 guys in 3 years. That's a quarterback guru. Because now, given some of these guys, but I mean, most of those guys just came in and immediately played, like Gabriel. Yeah, I get Moore had a year to sit behind him, but I mean, it's just incredible what he's done. Now, the one job I haven't brought up at all, Penn State. What are the Nittany Lions up to? Well, obviously, Tennessee fans weren't happy with the game on Saturday, so everybody was, fire Josh Heupel, fire Tim Banks, this, that, and the other. So there were some rumors from some sources that said that Josh Heupel and Kalani Sitake are both, maybe the last 2 candidates for this Penn State job. And, well, Monday night, Heupel came out and said on Three's Chris Lowe that I wouldn't want low expectations. That's part of why I want to be here at Tennessee. We'll win big. Now, a lot of Tennessee fans were fired up by that expression. A lot of them kind of rolled their eyes at, take a shot at Penn State, but they've been better than Tennessee for the last 5 years. So, and then also the "we'll win big" part, because there wasn't much of that this year. Now, after that, well, Sitake was the guy, and those talks really got heated up on Monday night. So, Monday afternoon, Jason McGowan, the co-founder and the CEO of Crumble Cookies, a Utah-based cookie company, tweeted that, and quote, "Some people are not replaceable. Sounds like it's time for me to get off the sidelines and get to work," end quote. McGowan is a huge donor to BYU. I mean, Crumble is set in Provo, so and it looks like they are. I don't know if anything is finalized at this current moment, but it does appear that Sitake is going to stay at BYU. Not sure what the final numbers are, but we will just have to see. Also, something a little interesting, Vandy quarterback Diego Pavia is calling for President Donald Trump to sign an executive order to expand the college football playoff to 16 teams. Quote, "At Real Donald Trump, make the executive order, please!" Exclamation points, and then the looking eyes emoji, end quote. Oh boy. I'm honestly a little curious as to how much power the President of the United States has in this. Can he sign an executive order to add 4 teams to the playoff? Because that's a lot that's got to change, a lot of money that's been put into things. You think there's no way, but it's the President of the United States. That's one of the most powerful people in the country. And he's a football guy. I mean, he's gone to college football games the past couple of years. He's been at Alabama LSU games, Alabama Georgia games. Might just seem that Donald Trump's an Alabama fan. Who knows? There's been a lot of talks around the President of the United States and the college football playoff. I mean, on Fox News yesterday, Marco Rubio joked with Donald Trump that he's going to have to take over the committee if Miami gets left out. Quote, "With that one, I'm a Florida Gator, but the University of Miami gets screwed out of the college football playoff after going 10-2 and beating Notre Dame. The whole thing should be scrapped, and Trump's going to have to take over next year." Wow. Some interesting stuff going on. I mean, I think Vanderbilt was wronged. I don't think that's... I just don't think that's a reason to get the president involved. I mean, it's the playoff. And with the way that things have gone, I mean, Pavia's probably just going to file some injunction and come back next year. I mean, he's going to do it every year until they kick him out. So now let's get over to what is one of my, what used to be one of my favorite holidays of the year, National Signing Day. Now, it's changed over the past couple of years. Because now there is an early signing day, which I believe is today. Today's the early signing day. But it became a big thing, around my childhood, where you would stay home and play hooky and turn on ESPN and watch where your favorite teams were going to have next year. So we'll get right into it, and we'll stay local in the state of Tennessee. The number one ranked quarterback in the country, per some sources. I mean, you can go to a different recruiting site, and there's a different number one over all of them. But we'll just say the number one ranked quarterback in the country, at least for this, because he is on Rivals. Has flipped his commitment. Nashville Christian Jared Curtis changed his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt Tuesday night. Curtis had been committed to Georgia since May 5th, but frequent trips to Vanderbilt, and obviously him being in the Nashville area, including an unofficial visit October 25th, made the flip seem somewhat likely. I mean, after the visit, he said that there wasn't much of a chance of that, but then Vandy re-signs Clark Lee. Well, then Steve Wiltfong from Rivals had a crystal ball prediction of a flip from Georgia to Vanderbilt. And that was one of those where you're like, no chance, really? I mean, it'd be cool, but the number one quarterback in the country going to Vanderbilt? And Vandy goes to Knoxville, stomps Tennessee, and I guess that was all he needed to see. That one pickup jumped Vanderbilt's recruiting class from 45 to 30. Curtis will has signed this morning. Now, it got a little interesting yesterday because Vanderbilt posted about, obviously it was a Hayes Fawcett post. It was his graphics that he makes. Posted about it. 24/7 posted, Rivals posted, plenty of other news sources posted it. And then around a half hour later, Curtis, it was 11:15 on a school day, tweeted that he didn't know where any of these alleged rumors were coming from, and that he hadn't had a chance to speak with either school yet because it was the middle of the day on a Tuesday and he's still in school. Now, my guess with that is that, he was going to, I don't think yesterday had any impact on him going to Vanderbilt. I think that he wanted to make his big flip, during signing day today, because he did sign at school today. I would have assumed that he wanted to make his big announcement then, all the cameras on him, and then unfortunately some people at Rivals decided that they wanted to jump the gun and get the news out as soon as possible. It feels kind of weird to use a high school student for clicks, but most of these recruiting sites, they all do it. So let's take a look at some of the top classes. I feel like it's something that doesn't really get talked about anymore, some of the top players, some of the top classes. So we'll jump right into it. Number one, as of right now, at 12:08 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, USC has the number one recruiting class in the country. With a pretty decent margin over number two. The margin between 1 and 2 is the same margin between 2 and 6. So it's USC. Only one 5-star, and then their board is full. They've got the full 35 that you can get. 21 4-stars, which is a gaudy amount. It is just impressive. And 13 3-stars. Now, their average isn't as high as some of the teams above them, or some of the teams behind them, but the only one 5-star kind of does hurt that average, but they got a ton of guys, and it's a good class. Number 2, Oregon. They got 4 5-stars right now, as does the two teams behind them, Alabama and Notre Dame. And number 5, Georgia. They've got 30 commits right now, a 5-star and 22 4-stars. Ohio State, they've got 28 right now, 1 5-star and 18 4-stars. Now, with the losing Brian Hartline at Ohio State, one of their top guys that is verbally committed, Legend Bay, has decided that he's going to delay his signing to December 5th, this Friday. That's one of the top athletes in the country, and if you're Ohio State, you don't want to lose that guy, because he's a 4-star, but that's a guy that can make an immediate impact. That's a guy that steps in right away and can help your team. Number 7, Texas. They got 3 3-stars and 13 4-stars, or 3 5-stars, pardon. Number 8, Tennessee, with 25 commits right now. I believe most of them have signed. I'm really confused because the number right there says 2 5-stars, but you click on them and you see that Faison Brandon, 5-star, is signed. Tristan Keys, 5-star, is signed. And then Gabriel Cinda, 5-star, has signed. And they're all top 20 players in the country, so I don't know exactly why they're saying he's not a 5-star here. But still, a top 10 class. And then number 9 and 10, A&M and Miami. Obviously those places are going to be able to recruit. LSU just outside the top top 10 at number 12. And they, having a little bit of a struggle right now because Lamar Brown, who is one of the top 4 or 5 players in the country, has delayed his Tristan Henderson, a 4-star edge, has they've he's rethinking his commitment right now because the coaching staff has changed since the team he committed to. Now, if you're an offensive player, I think you want to play for Lane Kiffin. That's just me. And this got me thinking, what's the lowest ranked recruiting class in the Power 4 at least? Well, Virginia is the lowest in the ACC with a score a point total of 171.16. In the Big 12, the team at the lowest is the Oklahoma State Cowboys with the score of 160.55, so just a little bit lower. And then you get to the Big 10. Penn State has 2 commits right now, a 4-star and a 3-star. They don't have a head coach. And now every single one of these guys that they wanted, some of them are going to Virginia Tech, some of them are going elsewhere. They're not going to Penn State because they ain't got a coach. And who are they going to get? What, you got Brian Kelly left? We can go get Hugh Freeze. He's not got a job. Jimbo Fisher. I feel like those guys are going to take some of the smaller jobs that are open right now. Tulane still hasn't hired anybody. That could be a good spot for one of them to go. But Penn State's struggling. Other than that, Nebraska is also really low right now at 151 points. And then last place in the SEC is Kentucky at 187 points. To put that in perspective for Kentucky, that 187 is it's not terrible, but every recruiting class in the SEC is in the top 70 in the country. And if you take out some of these teams that have fired their coaches like Kentucky, like Arkansas, like Auburn in the SEC, the next class is Vanderbilt at 33. You got Missouri at 32, Ole Miss at 31. They fired their head coach, or he left. But yeah, obviously there's still a ton of stuff that's got to go on today for signing day. I guess you could say somewhat locally for Tennessee, Celesi Moa is a 4-star athlete, is not expected to sign until later this week because Utah has made a late push. Now Moa is listed as an athlete, so not sure if he'd play offense or defense. You probably want him on defense, and that'll probably come down to his decision between Tennessee and Utah because Utah will probably let him play both sides of the ball because we saw this past year with the Utes that if you are one of their better athletes and one of their better football players, they're going to put you on the field on offense. I assume at Tennessee he'd probably just play defense. You look at the wide receiver room Tennessee's got. You're probably going to lose Bradwell to the draft this year. Mike Matthews might transfer, but that's still a really good receiver room. So looking at other things going on, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of crazy going on in the world of college sports today. Paul Feinbaum's announced he's not going to run for the Alabama Senate seat, but I don't think that's necessarily sports related. It's just a sports personality. Probably came down to that if he went into politics, he was never going to get to have his show again. And if I'm Paul Feinbaum, I wouldn't want to lose that. Really interested to see where Virginia Tech finishes in this recruiting cycle because now they got a dude and they're 5th in the conference. And they're not done yet. Now, looking at some of the ACC recruiting, it has no correlation to how good your team is. Now, obviously, Miami at number 1, but Florida State's at 2. They went 5-7. North Carolina, did they go 5-7 or 4-8? Clemson went 7-5. Virginia Tech, did they win 4 games? Those are 4 of your top 5, and they're not only 2 of your top 5 are going to a bowl game. That just shows that how much flip there is, because the 2 teams that are playing in the conference championship game for the ACC right now are dead last in the conference in recruiting by a sizable margin. And by sizable, I mean the gap between Cal and Duke, 15 and 16, is the same gap between Cal and Syracuse, who are at 7th in the conference. It's bad, But it also shows the outstanding coaching jobs of Tony Elliott, Manny Diaz, 2 different kind of head coaches, one more offensively, especially with Virginia, one more defensive with Duke. That might end up being a pretty interesting conference championship game on Saturday. But we'll talk about that and all the other conference championship games on Friday, as well as we will go through what I personally think were some of the best games of the year. We did weeks 1 through 7 on Monday's show. I thought we were going to do weeks 8 through 14 today. I'm going to push that to Friday with our conference championship preview show. So, yeah, we are going to cut to a break real quick. But when we come back, we've got a lot of college basketball to talk about because, we got the rest of Feast Week to break down. We have Wednesday through Sunday's games. And Saturday and Sunday didn't really have any games of note. So we got Wednesday through Friday's games. And then I'm going to go through each of those Feast Week tournaments and who won them. We're going to look at the AP Top 25 that came out on Monday. We are going to look at some of the games that have been played this week, look at the ACC SEC Challenge because it's not going the way that many people would have thought. And then we'll look at some of the games that have happened Monday and Tuesday. We'll preview some games for Wednesday and Thursday night. So we will get to that when we return here on the X Sports Network.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Hey everyone, this is Landon Saunders.
And this is Nate Patterson with Cloud9 Fiber.
We're excited to finally be able to offer Lawrenceburg our blazing fast, reliable, and affordable fiber internet services.
If you're looking for a more reliable and more affordable provider, we at Cloud9 Fiber have you covered.
Plans start at $50 a month, and we can offer up to a gigabit to your home or business.
We are excited to be able to offer your first month of service entirely free. We encourage you to sign up on cloud9fiber.com or by calling 931-201-9098 so we can help you make the switch today.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real in Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
I'm Mike Keith, and my friends at Elliott Johnson Insurance have a great partner in Auto Owners Insurance. Auto Owners makes it easy to get life, home, car, or business insurance. Let Elliott Johnson Insurance find the Auto Owners policy that makes a difference in your life. Call Elliott Johnson Insurance at one of their 3 locations, Florence, Loretta, and Lawrenceburg. Elliott Johnson Insurance, moving forward for our clients every day.
Welcome to Employee Resources Credit Union, where you're more than just a number, you're family. We provide financial solutions that rise above those of traditional banks. With roots stretching back to 1964, we've served 4 generations during constant industry changes. We're known for our low fees and incredible rates. Join us and experience the credit union difference. ERCU, not for profit, for service.
Comprehensive care with a compassionate touch. That will always be the guarantee at Encompass Healthcare in Etheridge, Tennessee. Whether you're looking for primary or urgent care, x-ray services, or weight loss treatments, the team at Encompass is equipped to serve your needs today. The doors are open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5 and from 8 to noon on Fridays. Make an appointment with providers Kendra Brown, Tori Cox, or Ellie Brown today. That's Encompass Healthcare, located on Highway 43 North in Etheridge, next door to Chapman Tire.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to segment number 2 of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm Michael Marks, and let's get into the hoops. Last week, Feast Week, obviously one of the most exciting times of the year when it comes to college basketball. You got games every day. You had a ton on Monday, a ton on Tuesday. Really, every day of the week last week, barring the weekends, ton of basketball. And even the weekends had a ton of games, just not really big ones. Now, we looked at Monday and Tuesday on last Wednesday's show, but let's get into Wednesday's action, starting off with Texas taking down number 23 NC State 102-97. A great win for the Longhorns as they improved to 6-2 on the season. And, we're still trying to figure out the SEC this year. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some in between. Texas, though, has been more on the good side. They have some good wins. They have some not terrible losses. I mean, you go look at some of their games. A 15-point loss to Duke. A lot of teams are going to lose to Duke. Other than that, their only loss is a 1-point loss to an Arizona State team that's pretty good, and they already have a ranked win now with knocking off NC State. Looking at some of the stats in that game, because there are a ton of points there in that 5th-place game over in Maui. Darion Williams, the transfer for NC State, only 10 points. You got 28 from Kadir Copeland, 20 from Paul McNeil Jr., and 23 from Vin Allen Lubin. But that was only 11 points off the bench, and that was not enough to stop the Texas Longhorn. They had a barrage. I mean, Jordan Pope gives you 28 points. That is awesome. Dalen Swain, 14 points, 7 assists. Tremont Mark a little slow, and that one didn't play as much. And then off the bench, you have Kendall Weaver give you 17, Simeon Wilcher 12. Those two guys give you 29 off the bench, which is more than twice of what the two guys off the bench provided for the Wolfpack, and they still scored 97 points. On over to the next game, we got Houston taking down Notre Dame 66-56. Houston was coming off that loss to Tennessee, was curious to see how they responded, and they came out firing on all cylinders against the Irish, but in the second half they slowed down a little bit. I don't know if it was necessarily just not hitting shots, but Notre Dame's got some dudes. Marcus Burton, 19 points. Jalen Harrelson, 14 points. That's a ton right there. Funny enough, though, only 2 points from the rest of their starters. So their starting lineup only gave you 35. You got 21 off the bench, which was huge. And it wasn't one guy. I mean, Frost gives you 5. Starter gives you 8. Imes gives you 6. For the Cougars, Chris Signac has struggled. The 5-star freshman has struggled a little bit in Vegas. Didn't have his best games. Joseph Tugler, 10 points, 8 boards. Fouled out. I mean, that's kind of his game. If he's in foul trouble, he's going to struggle. Kingston Fleming's coming off his best game of the year, has his worst game of the year. 1 point. 0 for 4 shooting. Again, was in some foul trouble. Now, the good thing for him, Houston's got 2 dudes. And them being seniors, Manuel Sharp and Milo Shuzan. Combined for 32 points. Were huge. Didn't turn the ball over a lot. Had some assists, had some rebounds, but really, really good shooting. Not much off the bench. Raymond Walker, Sahoko had a couple points. Houston's defense is really good, so you're going to see a lot of games 66-56, kind of like that, as long as they're going to continue playing good teams. Iowa State takes down Syracuse 95-64. The Orange. And that was 2 days after a game where they were right there to beat Houston and right there to beat Kansas and just came up a bit short and then just completely fell apart in that last game against Iowa State. Now, given the Cyclones are one of the best teams in the country, I firmly believe that. And every game I see of them, they keep confirming that. 4 year 5 starters in double figures. Momcilovic gave you 24, 6 for 10 from 3. Buchanan 12, Jefferson 13, Torrey 19. And they did this without Taman Lipsey, your best player, or your best player, second best scorer. That's impressive, and just really bad defense by the Orange. Sadiq White gives you 14. J.J. Starling only 10. Tyler Betsy 10. Not a whole lot of points for the Orange in that one. And definitely not the way they would like to end a trip to the Players era, 0-3. Kansas, defeats number 17 Tennessee 81-76. That was a great win for Kansas. They were one of those teams that was, in the same boat as Tennessee, as they had won both of their games that they were given in the Players era, and didn't get a championship game out of it. And you look, they played some. I'd say they probably had the easiest route, honestly, of anybody. Notre Dame and Syracuse. I don't think, based on how they played in that tournament, those two teams, that was by far one of your easiest routes. But they get a nice win, go 3-0 in that third place game, and take down Tennessee 81-76. A big second half, 47 points in the second half for Kansas, and it was 2 guys. Melvin Council, really 3 guys, but in the second half it was Melvin Council and Elmarco Jackson. In the first half it was Trey White and Flory Badunga. For Tennessee, Nate Ament was all right. He hit a couple threes, but didn't shoot really well. It was good from the line. Jacoby Gillespie wasn't great, but hit a three when he needed to. For Tennessee, it was kind of a collection of guys off the bench. Jalen Carey gives you a double-double, 11 and 10. He was awesome in that tournament. JP Estrella, in only 9 minutes because he turned his ankle. Poor guy's got the injury bug bad. He gives you 10 points. You probably like a little more from Amari Abram off the bench. 9 minutes, only puts up four shots, only hits one of them. And listen, the Vols are struggling right now, and funny enough, it's shooting the basketball. 41% in that game, 28% from three, 77% from the line. Kansas shot 8 more free throws, but I don't know if that would have helped Tennessee at all. They just needed to hit a couple more of their shots. It's as simple as that. And with that, we will hop on over to the rest of, I think all of these, except these next two, are in the Players era. Utah getting a big win, taking down Ole Miss 76-75, and boy, I'll tell you what, Chris Beard, we'll talk about him in a little bit, has not been happy with the way his guys have been playing as of late. And I'm a big fan of Beard. I think he's one of the smartest coaches in the country. Always got a well-coached team. But listen, the Acrisure Classic consolation game goes to the Utes. Don McHenry, 27 points for the Utes. He's been awesome this year, 17 points a game. Terrence Brown gives you 14. For Ole Miss, it kind of struggled. A.J. Storr, you thought maybe you could get a lot out of him coming in from Kansas and previous stops at Wisconsin as well. Cameron, not great. Actually, he shot pretty well in this game. Malik Dia was all right, almost got a double-double. They just fell a little short. And could it be that, you had Giffa play 13 minutes, didn't score? Scott plays 23 minutes, only gets 9 points. If you're going to play somebody on the court, they got to be able to put some points up. And almost just fell 1 point short in that one. Utah climbs to 6-2, and Ole Miss down to 5-2. Now the Maui Tournament Championship game, USC and Arizona State, former Pac-12 foes, now in different conferences, with USC joining the Big Ten and Arizona State into the Big 12. It's a good one. It was a good one indeed. And listen, Eric Musselman, third year in LA, is off to a nice start. They got that win 88-75. A game that was tied at half. But USC just came out and dominated in the second half. Azure gives you 14. Chad Baker-Mazara, though, he was, I feel like, just a really strong role player on that Auburn team last year. Could give you 10 or 12 every once in a while. But, man, he's been on a scoring feast. No pun intended on feast week. 21 points a game. He's been really, really good. 4 for 10 from 3. Azure gives you 14. Coffee with 11. And then Jaden Brownell off the bench with 16 points was really, really impressive. For the Sun Devils, it's kind of a collection. Anthony Johnson gives you 15. Odom gives you 17. Diop and Truett with 13 each. But weak second half and a collection of turnovers, 11, were the demise of the Sun Devils. But listen, I get the Maui tournament wasn't what it usually is, but that's still a very valuable trophy, being able to win that. Auburn and St. John's, both teams were not happy with how they have been playing in Vegas, and you kind of see a trend of that. These teams that are coming out of Vegas playing good or continue to play good. The teams that aren't looking as great. They get the day one win over Oregon. They get demolished by Michigan, which you'll see a trend of. And then they get St. John's, who was coming off of a 1 point loss to Iowa State, and then a nice win over Baylor. So both teams have kind of been on the opposite spectrum, so to speak. And this was a good one. St. John's had the big lead at halftime, and then Auburn outscored them 55-35 in the second half. Zuby Ejiofor, 24.6 boards, 16 points from Sanon. Kind of a collection of guys off the bench, but Bryce Hopkins, 2 of 11 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. Again, if you're wanting to be the dude for this team, you got to show it. I'll tell you who was the dude for this team, this Auburn team, Tahad Pettiford. Looked good in game one in Vegas. Looked terrible against Michigan. Looked good again against St. John's. 27 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3. Keyshawn Hall gives you 20. Kevin Overton with 12. Keyshawn Murphy, 9.6 boards. You get 7 off the bench from Sebastian Williams-Adams. No Flip Jovic in this one. And again, I'm just waiting for Elijah Freeman to take off, because this is a guy that can score a ton. And now I get he's probably the fourth scoring option on this team behind Hall, Overton, and Pettiford. But he's a guy that's good in bulk. If you can get him a ton of shots somehow, because he's a big guy at 6'8". You'd like to see him make his own shot. Man, this Auburn team is lengthy. Looking at their guys outside of Pettiford, who's only he's only 6'1". You got Overton 6'5". Murphy is nearly a 7-footer. Both Freeman and Hall are 6'8". It's a big team. It's a long team, and they're gonna be able to score with the best of them. Defense is though where we'll maybe see some concern when it comes to Auburn. Alabama demolishes Maryland 105-72 in that one. Bama finishes 2-1 in the Players Era tournament, and they didn't look bad. You lost to the runner-up in Gonzaga by 10 points in the first game. You go beat UNLV by 40 in the next game, and you put up 100 again against Maryland the next day. Not much to be bad at. Darius Adams gives you 20 and Pharrell Payne 14. Good to see him back out on the floor for Maryland because he had a fall a couple weeks ago that looked really, really bad. For the Crimson Tide, you had, 7 guys in double figures. Aiden Sherrill, Tyler Bobowen, LeBaron Fineland gives you 20. Aiden Holloway, 17 points, 10 assists, only 2 turnovers. London Jemison, 11 points. Amari Allen, 10 points, 7 boards, 6 assists. That pretty impressive from the freshman. And then Davion Hannah, 12 points off the bench. So Alabama shot nearly 60% from the field, 45% from 3 and 83% from the line. They're not going to lose a game when they shoot like that. And that's the danger that Alabama presents. Because, looking at some of their earlier games, you're like, okay, looked nice against St. John's. What do we know about the Red Storm now? Looked a little behind against Purdue, but then, takes a step up against Illinois. Looked a little slow against Gonzaga, and then so maybe a little bit of early season inconsistencies. Bama will be on the hardwood tonight. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit. What else we got? Oh, yes, the Players Era Tournament Championship, Michigan and Gonzaga. I talked about it. Jalen Rose and Chris Webber would not shut up about the front courts for these two teams because they're really good. Graham Ike, just some of the big guys from Michigan, Lindeborg, they're really good. Well, Michigan is a lot better. I don't know what happened because I was cautious about Michigan entering this tournament because you look at their some of their first games, a 1-point win in overtime against Wake Forest and a 4-point win over TCU. What are we doing? Well, step into the Players Era tournament. They go beat San Diego State by 40. They go beat Auburn by 30. And now they have Gonzaga waiting for them. And they beat them by 40. 101-61. I have never seen this one-sided of a game between two teams like this because I thought these two teams would be... I thought these were Final Four teams. I really did. Braden Huff was not a decent game, 14-6. Graham Ike was completely non-existent in that game. 1 point, 0 rebounds. Played 17 minutes and did nothing but pick up 3 fouls. Ty Grant Foster gave you a decent outing with 14, but let's talk about Michigan because that's where the fun begins. Yaxel Lindeborg, the UAB transfer, is finally stepping into his own. 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Morez Johnson, the Illinois transfer, gives you 11 and 5. Ade Mara, the big man transfer, the 7'3" guy from UCLA last year, gives you 13 points, 4 rebounds, a couple blocks. Elliot Cadeau, 5 points, 13 assists, only 2 turnovers, 14 points for Namari Burnett. Trey McKinney gives you 17 off the bench. Michigan's going to be really, really dangerous this year, folks. And just saying now, they take a bump up in the ratings, and I think they're still a little too low. Go to the games on Thursday, Halloween night cap off with Duke and Arkansas, 2 really good teams. Duke takes the edge in that one, 80-71. BYU took it down Miami 72-62. Game that I thought would be a little closer, but man, Michigan State dominated North Carolina 74-58. The Spartans at 7-0. One of the more surprising ones, this one in the Rady Children's Invitational. TCU defeats Florida, number 10 Florida, 84-80. TCU up to 4-2 on the year, and Florida. I'll tell you, Princeton transfer Xavier Lee is getting away with one of the biggest cases of robbery we've ever seen. They paid 7 figures for the guy. And any big game, he has not stepped up at all. I mean, he gives you 5 points in that game, and that's one of his best outings. He's averaging 8.4 points, but, looking at some of his games, against Duke last night, 40. That gets you 20 against Providence, 5 against TCU. Doesn't score against Merrimack. 5 points against Miami, 9 against Florida State. Had 14 against Arizona in their season opener. That Arizona team's really good, but he's got to take that next step. Because Flan, Chinyalu, Houck, and Condon can't do it by themselves. Now, Klavjar gave you 20 off the bench in that game, so maybe he might take over. I'm not sure. But things might not all be as good as they seem in up there in or down there in Gainesville. Oklahoma State takes down Northwestern 86-81. The Cowboys up to 7-0. And now on to Black Friday, where an 8-0 SMU team is still undefeated. Took down Mississippi State 86-81 in overtime. Mississippi State 3-4 on the season, really struggled. Miami takes down Georgetown 78-65. Probably the most surprising score from this entire week, Texas A&M defeats Florida State 95-59. Texas A&M had looked helpless in several games this year, and their 2 losses especially. Florida State has had some ups and downs, but, I mean, that's a 36-point beatdown. Not something you see a lot. BYU took down Dayton that next day, 83-79. UConn defeats Illinois, 74-61. And Vanderbilt avenges their round 1 exit in the tournament last year, taking down St. Mary's, 96-71. Again, on Saturday and Sunday, there were no games of note, not many big tournaments or anything going on. So now, if you remember, I believe it was 2 weeks ago on the Wednesday show, I previewed the Thanksgiving tournaments and for Feast Week in college basketball, the Players Era, Maui, Battle for Atlantis, things like that. So I'm going to go back through that list, and we're going to look at who won each of the tournament. Players Era goes to Michigan, that 40-point win over Gonzaga. Yeah, I was a little mad as a Tennessee fan because Tennessee had destroyed Rutgers on Monday, beat number 3 in the country on Tuesday by only 3 points, and the way that the seeding is determined for the championship of that is who wins their 2 games, or who does the best winning, and who wins by how much. Michigan got to the 20-point cap both times. Gonzaga got the 10-point win over Alabama, and then a 40-point win over Maryland, so they got in. But Michigan was the best team in that tournament. There is no doubt about it. The Maui Invitational goes to USC. The Trojans looked really good. Vandy wins the Battle for Atlantis over SMU. That's a good trophy to bring home, or over St. Mary's, which I guess is technically SMU. Iowa in the Acrisure Classic defeated Grand Canyon 59-46 to win that one. Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts looking good for the Hawkeyes. Over in the Emerald Coast Classic, LSU defeated DePaul 96-63. And, that was one when I looked at it with Georgia Tech, Drake, and DePaul that I feel like LSU kind of had to win that one. At the ESPN Events Invitational, that one goes to BYU. That was a tournament that featured 16 teams. You had Miami in there, Georgetown, Temple, Bradley, Princeton, Dayton, some formidable opponents. Next up, the Baja Mar goes to Purdue. They looked really good in that tournament. Got a win over a close one over Memphis, and then just demolished Texas Tech. I mean, that was another surprising score from last week, or from 2 weeks ago. The Rady Children's Invitational goes to TCU after they defeated Florida and Wisconsin. The Paradise Jam goes to Yale after they taken down Akron 97-94. That was a great game. Over to the Charleston Classic, a tournament that featured 2 brackets. The Palmetto bracket goes to Clemson after they defeated Georgia 97-94. That Palmetto bracket featured Georgia, Xavier, Clemson, and West Virginia. The Low Country bracket featured Utah State, Davidson, Boston College, and Tulane. Utah State took down Davidson 94-60. Whoa, big win there for the Aggies as they took the Low Country bracket. Over in the Hall of Fame Classic, this was the one that happened later 2 weeks ago. Nebraska took down Kansas State 86-85 following their win over New Mexico. And the Sunshine Slam, this one another one that had 2 brackets as well. George Mason defeated FAU 74-65. Looking at the Sunshine Classic, that first bracket was, let's see, George Mason, LMU, Ohio, and FAU. Again, they took down FAU 74-65. And then in the Ocean bracket, Pacific took down Jacksonville 68-53. Pacific, Stony Brook, Bethune-Cookman, and Jacksonville in that side of the bracket. And then in the Cayman Island Classic between Murray State, McNeese, MTSU, and George Washington. Pardon. That one goes to McNeese, defeating MTSU 72-62. So we got a new AP poll on Monday. Didn't have enough time in Monday's show to go over it, but we will hop right into it. Number 1 and number 2 are the same. You got Purdue, you got Arizona. Both 7-0, have looked really good this season. Purdue's had some hiccups. Arizona's looked really consistent, just good. Up 4 spots from 7, Michigan. They jumped Duke, which I think is questionable, maybe. I mean, I think the three teams in the country that have looked the best are Arizona, Michigan, and Duke. I think Purdue has probably looked the least impressive, but they have some good wins. I mean, they beat Alabama. You got wins like that. They look good. Duke stays at 4 or 8-0. UConn stays at 5, 6-1 on the year. They're looking really good. Louisville stays at number 6. They're 7-0, and they got some big games coming up. I'll tell you, the Cardinals have not made it easy on themselves this year, and I'd say it's fair. They think that they want to prove that they're good this year. They're going to have to play the games that that show that. Looking at some of the games they played in November, they had Kentucky, they had Cincinnati. Not a bunch of tough games in November, but December. That schedule is rough. At Arkansas, that's tonight. At Indiana, that's Saturday. The next Saturday, they host Memphis. Well, that Tuesday, they got to go to Knoxville and play Tennessee. And then Montana, and then at Cal to start conference play there on December 30th. So we're going to see how good Louisville really is in the month of December. And if they can make it out of there with 1 loss or maybe even unscathed, might be looking at a number 1 team in the country. Michigan State, 7-0 last week. They bumped up 4 spots from 11. They just keep impressing. I thought after that Michigan State-Arkansas game, it was an ugly game early in the season. I was like, boy, both these teams suck. I really did think that. And then I watched Michigan State play Kentucky. And then I watched Michigan State play North Carolina. And not like Kentucky and North Carolina are bad teams at all, but, man, they dominated those. And at 7-0, it looks like Izzo's got him another team that's going to make a run in March. The Cougars of Houston, they lost that game to Tennessee. They fall 5 spots to number 8 at 7-1. BYU stays at number 9. They're 6-1 on the year. Up 5 spots from number 15 to number 10 is the Iowa State Cyclones at 7-0. The third lowest ranked Power 5 team, or, well, I say Power 5 still for basketball. Power 5 team in basketball. And it was just because they started the season unranked or started the season a little lower ranked and haven't had as many big time matchups that are on ESPN and TNT against top 5 teams. It's just because they're Iowa State. Because Gonzaga at 7-1 is number 11. They're actually jumped up 1 spot from number 12 from last week. But I don't know how you can reward a team for losing by 40. Because they lost the game by 40 last week, and they moved up. I mean, I'm not a historian. I don't know how I would find this. You know what? We'll just do it. We'll ask ChatGPT real quick. We'll see if they have a question or if they have an answer to this question, because I don't think a team has ever lost by 40 and moved up in the AP poll. So we're going to look that up. Has any college basketball team lost a game by 40 plus points and moved up in the next week's AP poll? So ChatGPT probably won't know this. I mean, it's probably just going to mention the so it does mention Michigan beating right here, but maybe the last, it says I can look in the last 50 years. We'll see if that helps. But what I'm trying to say is that doesn't happen. Now, they have some impressive wins, I will say, but I just don't know how you can do that. And I'm looking for any AP poll. This could be men's or women's basketball. So it couldn't find any. Doesn't mean there isn't none, but definitely kind of leaning that way. Alabama at 12, one spot behind Gonzaga, rightfully so at 5-2. When you look at Alabama's losses, it's to number 23 and to number 11. I mean, and they've played, or pardon, it's to actually beat number 23. Their losses are to number 1 and number 11 by 17 points. I mean, they were relatively close games. Tennessee up 4 spots from number 17 to number 13. If you beat Kansas, you're probably sitting at number 8 or 9 above Houston. But again, we talk about the playoffs and the head-to-head matters. Well, why isn't Tennessee ranked above Houston right now? That's because Tennessee hasn't played anybody nearly as good, because Houston had some tough games in there. Number 14 up or down, moving down 1 spot following that loss to UConn is Illinois. They're at 6-2 on the season. They're a good team, but it seems that most of Brad Underwood's teams really struggle against teams that move the ball fast. Their 2 losses are to UConn and Alabama. Those are teams that get up and go. Down 5 spots from number 10 to number 15 is Florida. And I'll tell you, the national championship hangover is real. You lose 3 starters from that national championship team, your 3 guards, and you try to replace that all in the portal. There's some growing pains, and they'll continue to go through them probably most of the season. I'm curious to see where Florida is at the end of the season. Do they completely fall apart, or do they rebound and compete again? Staying at number 16 following the loss to Michigan State is North Carolina, 6-1 on the season. Obviously just a big downer with that Seth Trimble injury. The team that made the biggest jump was up 7 spots from number 24 to number 17. It's the Vanderbilt Commodores. They're 8-0. They haven't played anybody ranked yet, but they haven't lost, and most of their games have not been close. I mean, they're beating teams, and they're beating them bad. Mark Byington's got him another squad. Tanner is an exceptional guard. Tyler Nickel, he's really good. They got McLaughlin back from last year, as their kind of new enforcer since Jalen Carey transferred to Tennessee. They're still going to be a very tough team in the SEC, and I think they will be for as long as Mark Byington's there, at least. Kentucky, 5-2, up 1 spot. They've really struggled this year, though. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that even I don't know what's going on, but there's something there. Texas Tech up 1 spot from number 20 to number 19. They're 6-2 on the year. Auburn, they jump up 1 spot by losing by 30. So I guess they only look at what your record was for the week. Oh, Auburn went 2-1. We'll bump them up. Well, those 2 wins were by like 20 points, and that loss was by 30. So actually, they lost the week by 10 points, and we're moving them up for that. At least overall, I think Gonzaga won the week, or was positive, because I think they won a game by like 40 or 50 the night before. So they were positive by a pretty good bit. Kansas, they were out of the poll, and now they're back into the poll, and they look good at number 21, 6-2 on the year. I'm not sure why they had dropped out. They had that 1 loss on the road at North Carolina, who is still a pretty dang good team, and they're doing it without Darren Peterson, their best player. Now, Kansas has found some new guys, which makes them extremely dangerous if Peterson comes win, and if or when, I think he will, but if Peterson and when Peterson comes back, that might be the best team in the Big 12. I want to see them in Iowa State. I want to see them, them in Arizona, because that's a Big 12 game now. I want to see them in Houston. I mean, Big 12's tough, folks. 7-0 up from number 25 to number 22 is the Indiana Hoosiers. They've looked good. Got some tough games coming up, but we'll see how good they really are. And the team with the worst record right now in the AP Top 25 is the St. John's Red Storm. They're 4-3, and they've dropped 9 spots from number 14. They did not fare well. They went 1-2 in Vegas last week, and are looking to get back on track. Hopefully, for them, they can get it back on track, because I loved them being good last year. Looking at the remainder of their non-conference, because they made it hard on themselves this year. The Red Storm in December have a game Saturday against Ole Miss. I think that one's at home. Yes, that one is at MSG. Game against Iona, DePaul, that's a conference game. At Kentucky in the CBS Sports Classic. So actually that's going to be at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Harvard and then Georgetown. So really just conference play. And I don't want to say it's a bad conference this year, but UConn is good. Georgetown's good. nobody else in the Big East has really impressed me this year. Teams have impressed me about how bad some of them are, like Providence, Marquette, DePaul. Seton Hall's off to a good start, and I like to see that. They fared pretty well in the Maui Invitational, getting third place. All right, and to round out the top 25, at number 24, you have USC, the lowest ranked Power 5 team, making their first entrance into the AP poll. And then down 3 spots from number 22 to number 25 is the Arkansas Razorbacks. We had 2 teams fall out, obviously, because we had USC and Kansas in, UCLA and NC State out. So, teams from California replace each other, and NC State and Kansas aren't in the same place, but I don't think that's a bad AP poll right now. I think that's pretty fair from what we know with these teams. Because, like right now, I could say, Vanderbilt's undefeated. Why aren't they in the top 5? Well, we don't know if they can compete with anybody in the top 5. Tennessee, they beat the number 3 team. Why are they number 13? Because they lost to an unranked team the next day. Something Rick Barnes said after that game against Kansas is, he said, what? Last year's team may not have beaten Houston, but I know they would have beaten Kansas the next day. Maybe a little bit of drama going on in Knoxville as well. So, the games of this week. Monday, not any big ones, but yesterday we had the first half of the men's ACC and SEC challenge, and not going the way of the boys in the SEC. They dominated it the last several years. Last year was probably the most one-sided one. Let me find the numbers on that one. The ACC, SEC basketball challenge. If it will load. But the SEC dominated it last year. I'm trying to think of wins. I know Duke beat Auburn. I know Clemson upset Kentucky, but was there another win other than that? Man, this thing is really not wanting to help me out right now. There we go. Can I get the results? Why would I want to see the schedule from last year? I watched it. Here we go. It's got its own Wikipedia page. So take it with a grain of salt. But as of now, last year in the men's, it was 14-2. The first year, it was a tie, 7-7. Right now, the ACC's got a pretty handily lead at 6-3. It went bad for a lot of teams. Didn't matter if you were at home or on the road. UNC takes down Kentucky. That was the big late night game up there in Lexington, 67-64. And oh boy, I mean that's kind of just where the dominoes started. Well, I mean I guess that was the last game, so it ended there. But it was kind of just the fitting cap off to the day for the SEC. Caleb Wilson was awesome. Henry Vassir was awesome. That was really all North Carolina needed. Kentucky, 8%. They hit 1 3, 8% from 3, 43% from the field, 70% from the line. I mean, what do they do? I mean, you got Colin Chandler. Owe finally had a decent game, 16 points, but Aberdeen, Chandler, and Owe, I mean, is that really what you spent $15 million on or whatever it was, $12 million? I mean, you'd think money could buy you a better matchup than that. And Kentucky, they've got another tough game left on the schedule this week. Notre Dame takes down Missouri 76-71. Miami took down Ole Miss 75-66. And Chris Beard, after the game, there was a question asked to A.J. Storr about how to fix the team's defense. And Beard butted in and said that play different players. So it's things getting a little heated in Oxford. Things getting a little heated in Lexington. I mean, the SEC is so competitive that everybody's fighting. I mean, Missouri just lost their first game last night to a Notre Dame team that hadn't really impressed me. Georgia, though, they got the SEC's back, took down Florida State 107-73. Florida just came up short last night against Duke, falling 67-66. And man, oh man, I tell you, I think Cam Boozer plays better in bigger games. Now, to be fair, I've only seen Duke play in some of those big games this year because that's the only time I'm not going to go out of my way to watch Duke. But you look at some of their big games against Kansas, back when Kansas was ranked. Boozer gives you 18 and 11. Go to that game against Arkansas from Thanksgiving Day. Boozer gave you 35-9. And then you go to this game against Florida, and he says, okay, well, fine, I'll do it again. 29-6 right there. I mean, he just, he's so good. And I think and the thing is, he might not even be the best freshman in the country. I think he is by far. But Darren Peterson's really good. You know, I'm going to say Nate Amen's been really good because he can score. It's not very efficiently, and it's mostly from the line, but he can score. Michael Brown Jr. I mean, there's a ton of guys I'm forgetting. Just some of the guys I'm naming off the top of my head. Elsewhere, Virginia Tech gets an overtime win against South Carolina, 86-83. A&M takes down Pitt on the road, 81-73. Oklahoma takes care of Wake Forest, somewhat surprisingly, because Wake Forest had looked really good this year, 86-68. And the shocker ended in a court storming, Syracuse 62, Tennessee 60. And the wheels are starting to fall off the bus in Knoxville. At least the last two games. They've both been terrible, where Tennessee should have won and didn't. Tennessee was down by 2 at halftime. They were down by 2 at the end of the game. That's kind of how it went. Amen. Terrible. 2 of 10 from the line, or 2 of 10 from the field. 1 of 3 from the 3-point line. Had 7 turnovers. You almost had a triple-double because of turnovers. Okpara did nothing. 2 points in 22 minutes. Kate Phillips started but didn't play much because he didn't do anything. Gillespie 5 of 12 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, and didn't get to the line once. 7 assists to 2 turnovers, so that looked nice. But I mean, you're looked to be at the number 2 scorer on this team, maybe the number 1. You gotta score more than 10 points. Gotta get to the line. Bishop Boswell was all right. I mean, didn't play much. Was kind of in foul trouble. I'll tell you, the MVP for this Tennessee team this year has been Jalen Carey. A little cautious because some of the first games I don't want to say he looked bad, but he didn't look good. That first game against Mercer, 8 points. 0 against Northern Kentucky, 6 against North Florida, 9 against Rice, 6 against Tennessee State, 4 against Rutgers. Well, then he goes out and gives you 13-7 against Houston, 11-10 against Kansas, and 22-9 against Syracuse. So it seems as the competition gets better, so does Jalen Carey. Vols got a big one this Saturday. I'm going to look for him to be pretty big in that one. So after day one, it's ACC 6, SEC 3. There are 7 games tonight. The SEC, if there's 7 games, they got to win at least 5 to tie it up. They got to go 5-2 tonight. And looking at the slate, they got Clemson and Alabama at Alabama. I like the Tide in that one. I don't think Clemson is up to that level. Arkansas and Louisville. We got some of the best young players in the country. It's at Arkansas. Bud Walton's going to be rocking. I think it's going to be Carl Ravitch and Jimmy Dykes on the call, so it's going to be a good one to listen to as well. I'm excited about that one. You got two young teams, 2 really good head coaches, kind of at different points in their career. Pat Kelsey kind of on the up and coming. Calipari kind of in his, I'd say he's in his Rick Pitino kind of years. Now he's just, kind of the way Pitino was at Louisville, just kind of the old Godfather type of vibe. And now is, Pitino's got it even more now at St. John's. But LSU at Boston College. I like LSU in this one as well. Boston College hasn't really impressed me much this year, but the SEC struggled on the road. Mississippi State at Georgia Tech. That's probably going to be a drubbing. That's one that, where it makes that Arkansas-Louisville game much more important, because I don't think anybody in the SEC, including the 20, 25 guys in that Mississippi State locker room, think they're going to win that game. NC State at Auburn, that's going to be a good one. Stephen Pearl, Will Wade, 2 very, I guess you could say different, because NC State's going to, honestly more of the same. They're going to be 2 3-and-D kind of teams. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to play really good defense. That one, the nightcap on ESPN, that one's going to be fun. The one that might be the most underrated, because it's not on ESPN, it's on the SEC Network at 8:15. SMU at Vanderbilt. Memorial Gymnasium's going to be rocking. One of these teams is going to get their first loss of the year. And I just don't know if SMU can keep up with Vandy. The second best scoring offense in the country. And with that, an incredibly high margin of victory. And then the last one, Virginia at Texas. I think this one's very interesting. Virginia has looked really good. They're moving the ball. They're getting up and down the court. Their offense looks really good, which, again, is not something I'm used to saying. And looking at the Cavaliers, just overall, the schedule this year hasn't been like a gauntlet. Like, nobody expects Virginia to go out and dominate, but 87-53 over Rider, 81-62 over NC Central, put up 104 on Marshall, scored 94 on Queens. So they haven't played anybody yet. This will be their first real test. Their one loss did come to Butler in that Greenbrier tip-off. But they got to win against Northwestern in that. So we'll really see what Texas and Virginia are made of tonight. I actually like that. Surprisingly enough, I like that to be a high-scoring game. Realistically, the SEC could sweep the board, but I could have said the same thing yesterday. Or realistically, at least gone the other way. Like, I could see UNC beating Kentucky. I could see Florida beating Duke. I could even see, I actually saw, and I don't see another loss. But that's what happens. They play the games, they lose. It looks bad. So we'll go back and look at some of the other games from yesterday, because there wasn't just the ACC-SEC Challenge. We had another ranked matchup. And funny enough, there were 3 matchups yesterday. Duke, Florida, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, UConn. It was like 19 of the last 22 national champions. UConn got the edge, the better of Kansas in that one, 61-56, and an ugly one. I mean, that's what you expect from a Virginia basketball game, not UConn and Kansas. You expect them to run up and down the court. Maybe not Kansas as much this year, because without Peterson, they aren't the same level of offense, and they scored 56 points last night. Again, Badunga was awesome, 11 and 12. Melvin Council gives you 12, but Trey White only really scored from the line. Jamari McDowell, not much. Elmarco Jackson followed up his great game against Tennessee with an 11-point game. But where's the urgency? Where's the 20-point game? If you're not going to have a 20-point game, where's the 4 guys with 15? Because Alex Caravan had 11. Reeby had 12. Silas Demery only had 2 points. Solo Ball had 17. Braylon Mullins, 17 off the bench. I mean, you got guys off the bench for UConn playing 23 minutes, scoring more points than your starters that are playing 35+. I feel like Kansas is a lot like Tennessee. They'll look really good in one game, and then they'll look like garbage in the next. And that's what we saw from them last night. Utah takes down Cal 79-72 in a former Pac-12 matchup that is now an ACC and Big 12 matchup. I think Cal's got them a squad, and it's crazy to see Utah beat a team because I really do think Ole Miss has a chance to be really good this year. But to get a win like that, I mean, that's an impressive win. I don't really know what Cal is looking like necessarily in the ACC. They're the only ACC team, I believe, that has gotten left out of the ACC-SEC tournament or challenge. Maybe wrong about that, but I think they're the one team that got left out, because obviously SEC 16 teams, the ACC has 17, I believe. They have an odd number. But looking at the stats in that one, Trey Orey gives you 14 for Utah, as does Dawes. Terrence Brown gives you 15, but you didn't get a whole lot from the bench. Big games for Cal. Justin Pippen, Scottie Pippen's son, 23 points. Day-Day Ames, 25 points. He looks really good. And then you got John Camden giving you 13. So you got 2 guys that are combining for 48 points. And then you got another guy that can score in double figures too. I mean, that's impressive. Pippen's averaging 14 a game. Ames is averaging 19 a game. And that guy that scored 13, Camden, he's averaging more than 13 points a game. So that was a bad game for him. Cal might be the real deal. I mean, they opened conference play on December 30th against Louisville at home. A chance to get a big ranked win like that, because I don't think there's any way Louisville isn't ranked by the end of the month. They got to go to Duke and to North Carolina in the same week, but they don't have another ranked game on their matchup. Cal could really sneak into the tournament and be a force. Iowa fell to Michigan State last night, 71-52. Michigan State just continues to look better and better. And it's not even March yet. I mean, I didn't think Tom Izzo got out of hibernation until at least the middle of January, till conference play starts. But man, he's come and hit the ground running, which you don't see from a lot of Michigan State teams. I mean, we've seen a number 4 Michigan State team lose like their first 3 games of the season. We've gotten to the point of the show where the iPad wants to quit on me. So when it unfreezes, we will we'll just read over some of the final scores from the past couple of days, if I can get this to load. That's not even the app I clicked on. Gotta love technical difficulties. Like, why did the news app open? I didn't click on the news app. I don't even use the news app. I didn't even know how to download it. Nonetheless, we'll get back to college basketball. USC takes down Oregon. USC takes down Oregon last night in Eugene, 82-77. I like that some of these former Pac-12 teams are playing non-conference games against each other because they're so close. Might as well. Now, tonight, in the SEC-ACC Challenge, I already previewed the games, but we got Clemson at Alabama, 6:15 on ESPNU. In Fayetteville, you got number 6 Louisville at number 25 Arkansas, 6:15 on ESPN. Not really sure about the weird start times tonight. If I can get the app to load and tell me while we have some weird start times. Nonetheless, what else? LSU at Boston College, 6:15 on the ACC Network. Mississippi State at Georgia Tech, 8:15 on the ACC Network. The nightcap on ESPNU is Virginia at Texas, 8:15 on ESPNU. SMU at number 17 Vandy at 8:15 on the SEC Network. That's going to be a good one. And then another great one is going to be NC State at Auburn, 2 teams trying to get back on track. I think the winner of this game is probably going to be ranked next week, and the loser won't be. That one at 8:15 on ESPN. Other games tonight, you got Northwestern at Wisconsin opening up Big 12 or Big 10 play at 8 o'clock on the Big 10 Network, as is UCLA and Washington. That game up in Seattle at 10 o'clock on the Big 10 Network. Tomorrow, for games, we got Notre Dame at TCU, 7 p.m. on ESPN+. Cincinnati at Xavier, 6:30 on TNT. And then one I'm really excited to close off Thursday at least, number 11 Gonzaga at number 18 Kentucky. That one at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. So that will do it for this Wednesday edition of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We will be back on Friday around 11, and we are going to preview. We got a lot of stuff, actually. We'll break down those games from Wednesday and Thursday. We'll preview the weekend ahead in college basketball because it's a good one. We've got football conference championship weekends. I'll give you a little guide preview predictions for that. We'll look at the best games of the year in college football. And whatever else is going on. I mean, there will probably be something that comes up. I mean, there's probably something that's happened during the show that I just haven't looked for yet. And I'll look right now just to make sure. Nothing crazy hasn't happened because sometimes that tends to happen. But it seems like the news date is tending to be slow in college football. Other than as of 23 minutes ago, 4-star athlete legend Bay has flipped his commitment from Ohio State back to Tennessee. Interesting. And as of 38 minutes ago, 4-star defensive lineman Carter Gooden has flipped his commitment from UCLA to Tennessee. All right, well, the Vols are hot on the recruiting trail. We'll break that. We'll go over the final. That's what else we'll do on Friday. We'll look at the final recruiting rankings. So that will do it for the Mark My Words show. We'll see you on Friday. Have a good day, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.